evening and welcome to I'm Chris Parnell.
Reporting from Moscow.
Tbilisi,
Times Square.
May your dreams be your only boundaries in life.
Hello, and welcome to Tennessee Talks. I'm your host, Ruth Dunning. It's a brand new season on Tennessee Talks, and we're delighted to begin it with one of our favorite guests, Jackson Baker of the Memphis Flyer. Jackson will catch us up on what's been going on in the political arena, and we may get some predictions from him on the November elections. Welcome back, Jackson. We're delighted you're here.
I am delighted to be here, and let me say for the watching audience that you look spectacular today. You should be on the ready list of all the television networks to fill in on those morning shows up there.
Of course, of course.
You look and sound the part.
I'll pay him later. But let's talk about some issues first. We've had some horrible things happen in Memphis and Shelby County recently. A mob attack, shooting, many shootings. What's the political outcome from that?
It has a serious, that's one thing, is a serious social and economic threat to our community.
Right.
The really dangerous incident occurred at the Poplar and Highland with a mob of about 100 kids who were out frolicking and decided the part of their frolic would be to beat up passerbys at random, and they did. They beat up 3 of them, or attacked one who got away and beat up 2 of them, left them unconscious.
Right.
They were Kroger employees doing their job. As everybody knows, I think, Poplar and Highland is a strategic intersection in the whole of Shelby County.
Right.
Poplar Avenue is our main street. It begins in the government quarter downtown. It bypasses Overton Park, our legendary park. It goes into all the major shopping and residential areas, intersects the University of Memphis, comes through Germantown and Collierville, the heart of Germantown and Collierville, and finally expires in Mississippi. It's the closest thing to a main street, a common thoroughfare that we have.
Right.
And Poplar and Highland is a legendary location. It's a key part of that continuum. It connects all parts of the county. There's a wonderful brand new Kroger store there, which was the site of the problem. And there are other shopping areas there that are available to all. It's not that it's super elite. It's a very nice center. For it to be ruined as a destination, for people to be scared to go there, would be a disaster.
And I think that's happening.
Yeah, I hope this is temporary. And you ask about, obviously, the economic and social impact of that is obvious. There is a high side in the sense that the first meeting of the new Shelby County Commission occurred this week. And you may know, and our listeners may know, our viewers may know, that the Shelby County Commission has rarely agreed in recent years.
Absolutely.
It's been very schism-driven, city versus county and all kinds of other combinations. There was absolute unanimity on the point of these 13 brand new commissioners that the county had to be involved in resolving this problem. Now, as we know, the city is going to be trying to resolve it. Mayor Wharton has had a press conference. Chief Tony Armstrong's had a couple of press conferences. What they say is reassuring. May I say, frankly, though, it reminds me a little bit of President Obama speaking on these international crises. He always says the right things. We do wonder, is action actually coming? And we're in the same situation, I think, with what the city officials say. So at the meeting of the county commission, Mark Billingsley, who represents Germantown, where we are right now, moved that there should be a discussion of what to do there involving county people. And the whole of the commission, 13 members from all parts of the community and the county, black, white, every kind of social class represented there, they all agreed, yes, And what they agreed to do was ask the mayor, the county mayor, Mark Luttrell, the sheriff Bill Oldham, and the chief of security at the Shelby County Schools, for that matter,
Right.
to come and to have a sort of summit meeting and to decide what the county can do. Not waiting on anybody else, what the county can do, because Poplar and Highland is in the county. And as Mark Billingsley said, you know, people in Germantown are keenly aware of their link to that part of Memphis. So the good news is there is a unified sense on the county commission, and I think in the whole community, including the city, that this is not something that we can just deal with by rhetoric. It has to be dealt with by some efficient means, and not just law enforcement means, but trying to get at the roots of some of these problems.
Right, the social and economic problems, yes.
But to say the least, it's a wake-up call.
Absolutely. I do know the police commissioner says we're going to start holding parents accountable for their underage, I guess, youngsters' behavior.
That's a step, but in some cases, these families are so loosely constructed that it's very hard to get at the parents. There may be, in many cases, there's a single parent who is overwhelmed by what she has to deal with, usually a woman, overwhelmed by what she has to deal with, and she may try to deal with the issue in a family sense, but it's hard. Not everybody was raised by the same values either. That's something we need to recognize. So society at large needs to put its hand in somehow. One thing I've noticed, I was talking to Mark Billingsley on the way here, as a matter of fact, and on the phone, and one thing I've noticed, and he had noticed as well, if you, right there, very close to the intersection of Poplar and Highland, there's a nice new office building with a big sign out front, space available. And I had the thought, why could this not be some kind of hub for local law enforcement? He had the same thought. At minimal expense, I'm sure. And it need not be battalions of people with all kinds of military gear, just the fact of having a presence there. And I'm hoping that they actually come to some sort of resolution on that.
Good. I do too. The whole county benefits. Yes. Socially, economically, nationally. Good many friends of mine who have relatives out of the city have had phone calls saying, how scary is it? You know, are you sure you're going to stay there? kind of thing. I mean, it's a national reputation that we're dealing with.
And I should say that I think our viewers are aware that there's a little bit of a gap between our taping the show and it showing up on their screens. Let's hope the thing's been resolved by the time they see this.
Probably it'll be seen this week, so maybe not.
Okay.
But usually there is a gap.
They'll act really fast.
Yeah. Couple of other national issues that may be impacting Tennessee. Several Republican states are now actively considering Obamacare. Let's talk about Tennessee and the Affordable Care Act.
You know, I honestly believe that Governor Haslam wanted to get aboard the Medicaid expansion, have it occur in Tennessee. He also probably wanted a Tennessee exchange, but he was aware that it was also offered under Obamacare, so we could administer our program here and not have the feds be responsible for everything. But he was aware that his legislature, which is overwhelmingly Republican and overwhelmingly conservative Republican, was bitterly opposed to it. And, you know, frankly, a lot of those folks are opposed to it, not necessarily on its merits, but because a Democratic president has proposed it.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to come back in just a few seconds and finish up Obamacare. Okay, stay with us. More from Jackson Baker when we return.
You can now watch your favorite Germantown community television shows from anywhere in the world. GHS-TV is streaming online, live 24/7. A viewing screen displays our channel just like you see on television. Simply visit our website at www.ghstv.org. So log on and enjoy hometown news from anywhere in the world, only at ghstv.org.
Would it be be okay if I sat here?
Is she serious? Whatever. New girl.
Reaching out. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to Tennessee Talks. I'm Ruth Dunning, and we're joined today by Jackson Baker with the Memphis Flyer. We're back, and we get to get back to expanding Medicare.
Yeah, I think the governor, who is a moderate man, a very sensible man, very well-intentioned man, I think he had every sense of wanting to, create a Tennessee exchange to administer the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, and also to accept Medicaid expansion. He, however, was very aware that his legislature was adamantly opposed to it, and before the break I was saying that I suspect that a lot of that opposition is not based on the merits of the case, but simply because Republicans in Tennessee, as Republicans in Washington, are really averse to the idea of President Obama succeeding at anything. Our political system is at a definite standstill. Nothing can get done.
Right.
Not in the executive branch, not in the legislative branch, which is unfortunate because we have hospitals in Tennessee that are on the edge of financial starvation. And if some of them shut down, like Crittenden Hospital just shut down in West Memphis, they create an incredible burden on the other hospitals that can go the course. And they deprive a lot of people of ready medical care. And we're talking about $2 billion a year in Tennessee that we're not getting because our state has not accepted Medicaid expansion.
Tell us what happens if the governor decides he wants to do this. Tell us what the legislative proposal is then.
Unfortunately, and again, I suspect the governor might say, well, this really isn't the case, but I suspect a lot of people suspected he wanted to do it, but held back because his legislature was not ready to consider it. But he should have done it back then if he was going to do it, because the legislature in the meantime has enacted a law requiring that any plan he comes up with dealing with the Affordable Care Act must be ratified by both houses of the Tennessee legislature. Both houses of the Tennessee legislature, we know from their previous votes, are adamantly opposed to it. So he can't do anything. He could come out with the most ideal plan known to mankind. He could not get it, as long as it was connected in any way to Obamacare, it's dead meat in Tennessee, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, right. Another issue nationally that has come up, many states surrounding Tennessee have enacted fairly harsh anti-gay marriage laws, and the courts are rapidly dismantling those laws. Where does Tennessee stand?
Tennessee stands, I'm not sure if they've enacted specific legislation opposed to gay marriage, but if not, that will come. Because there is no sentiment in the Tennessee legislature. Again, it's a very conservative legislature. No sentiment for that kind of social change to approve it in any way. It's one of those situations where change is going to happen whether we like it or not. You know, I've got 2 young daughters, and I've got 2 slightly older sons, and they belong to a different generation, and they and their peers tend not to see this as an issue.
Right.
And we know from previous experience, racial integration, that sort of thing, when you look at the next generation and see what they're accepting, and that's what happens. You cannot stall it for very long. And I think it doesn't really matter what we do politically in the state of Tennessee, because the courts are fairly unanimous on this issue. It will occur. We can debate it all we want to. We should, because it does change the way in which we see an eternal institution of social importance. But it is fairly clear that among the rights now accorded gay citizens will be the right of marriage. It's coming one way or another. Whether
the Tennessee legislature is happy with it or not.
And I think some of the Republican, you mentioned some of the Republican states that have begun to accept this. It's unfortunate, but Tennessee used to be a bellwether state. It would go back and forth between Republicans and Democrats. Well, it's Republican now, as all the surrounding states are. Unfortunately, some of the other states are more moderate and balanced in their views than we are. We used to be the balanced version of republicanism here in Tennessee. We're not now. So I think a lot of governors and a lot of states are saying, okay, this is going to come to pass. We'll not impede it. Certainly this is true of some states. Obamacare is in the same situation. A lot of governors, very conservative governors, have accepted Medicaid expansion funds for the sake of their hospitals. We should do the same. As far as same-sex marriage, what was it that Lord Toynbee said? If it is of God, it will occur. If it is not, it will perish of itself. Okay, well, that'll take care of it then.
Let's talk about elections. Okay, let's start with Tennessee House and Senate. Both overwhelmingly Republican. Do you see any changes coming?
Not numerically. There are, I think, 28 Democratic members of the 99-member House of Representatives.
Right.
There are likely to be 5 Democratic members of the 33-member state Senate. And so Democrats will be virtually in the same position as people who sit in the galleries. They'll be spectators. They do have a voice. You know, the rules of Robert's rules permits them to speak and to file legislation and so forth. If the majority doesn't want it, it won't occur. But we have just elected some new senators. To be frank, we have improved what we had in the way of representation of Democrats from Shelby County. And also from Nashville. There's a young man named Jeff Yarbrough who was just elected to the state senate from Nashville, replacing a venerable man who had kind of seen his time come and go, Senator Doug Henry. This is a young, vital man who knows he's in a minority but can speak to the issues. Lee Harris had replaced Ophelia Ford as a state senator from Shelby County. And no offense to Ms. Ford, but Lee Harris is going to be much more dynamic and focused on the moment. And then this week, Sarah Kyle, she's also a very dynamic, youngish woman who has served in Tennessee state government, is the wife of former state senator Jim Kyle, now Chancellor Jim Kyle, and has inherited his seat as of this week. The 3 of those new faces, they're going to be a small core surrounded by a Republican majority, but they will articulate positions that the more moderate members of the Republican majority will respond to.
Good, and we'll take another quick break. This goes so fast. We will be back with more from Jackson Baker when we return.
You've watched it over the span of 3 decades. We've dedicated ourselves to making it a fantastic community show. And the Alliance for Community Media has named GHS-TV's Crosstalk the best informational program in the country. From coverage of important area issues and events to conversations with high-profile local, national, and international personalities, Crosstalk keeps you informed and entertained. Don't miss Crosstalk, produced entirely by the students of Germantown High School. The news show airs each week only on Germantown Community Television, cable channel 17.
Wow. College already.
Yeah. We gotta go.
I love you.
I love you too, Daddy. And thanks for everything.
Gratitude. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to Tennessee Talks. We've been talking politics with Jackson Baker of the Memphis Flyer. And we're going to finish talking up what we stopped talking about when the break occurred.
Well, I talked about the fact that I believe that even though the Democrats in the state Senate in Nashville are going to be overwhelmingly a minority, the 3 new members elected, and they are Jeff Yarbrough of Nashville, and Lee Harris and Sarah Kyle.
Well, Sarah Kyle hasn't technically been elected yet.
Oh, I am sorry. I am getting way ahead of myself. I'm making an assumption, and I
Yeah.
apologize to our viewers because she will have an opponent on the November ballot. Now, I'm fairly certain she'll win. Because District 30 is so overwhelmingly Democratic.
Yeah.
It's North Memphis, Fraser, and Raleigh, basically, and that's a very Democratic area. They don't elect Republicans there, but. A good friend of ours, a marvelous citizen named George Flynn, who I have nothing but admiration for him, including his determination to win public office, which is eternal and actually nonstop. He just lost a race to Lamar Alexander, whom he was trying to replace in the United States Senate, but he has become the Republican nominee to oppose Sarah Kyle. And I again apologize. Sarah Kyle's not been elected. She's been nominated by the Democrats. She will be opposed on the November ballot by Dr. Flynn, who made a very interesting speech to the Republicans who nominated him, saying that this is a special election of sorts, not really because it's on the regular ballot, but we can get out our troops and we can win this. Well, if he makes a fight of it, all power to him. But I do believe that Sarah Kyle will be in the state Senate.
That's a prediction.
Yeah, you wanted predictions. There's one.
There's one. Okay.
And Dr. Flynn will have a good time running. That's
Right. Let's go just a little bit north to Kentucky. Get out of Tennessee. Now we're in Kentucky talks briefly. And we have a very interesting race there for the U.S. Senate. And we have a Memphis connection. We're not totally, just jumping states here.
There's a young lady named Allison Lundergan Grimes, who is Secretary of State of Kentucky at the moment. She is a Democrat. She's a Rhodes College graduate.
Okay.
And she has been in Tennessee of late. I saw her in Nashville some months ago at the State Democratic Dinner. She was a featured speaker there. Makes a very good impression. She is opposing a real lion of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, who is a Republican majority leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's incredibly powerful. He's not what you would call charismatic, but he obviously understands the reins of power. She has challenged him, and oddly enough, for a state that resembles Tennessee in its political contours, the race in Kentucky has been from time to time even Steven. Probably he's edged ahead a little bit, but that goes back and forth. But she makes a very good impression, as I say, and she talks Kentucky talk. She doesn't appear to be any kind of interloper, and she has a fair chance of upsetting him, which, if it occurred, would offset some other states where there are probabilities that Republicans will replace Democrats, creating a Republican-dominated Senate to go with the Republican-dominated House. And
to go with the Republican-dominated Supreme Court.
Yeah, and you have deadlock all over again. Nothing much will change that way. The president will still make strong speeches and not be able to do anything. That's not very. We should somehow end around to a more positive note to end with.
With this, yes. Let's talk about Lamar Alexander. He had an opponent, we see, in Dr. Flynn, but he's now...
Well, his main opponent was not Dr. Flynn. Dr. Flynn actually finished third in that Republican primary. His main opponent was a state representative named Joe Carr, who was a Tea Partier. And Joe Carr got something like 45% of the vote.
Which...
If Dr. Flynn had not been in the race, Dr. Flynn got roughly 5%. Then Lamar Alexander, who got only 50%, might have been beaten, actually. And he barely survived. Incumbents of his longevity don't usually win by that small
it's a majority.
So he has got a Democratic opponent, Gordon Ball, who is a very respectable opponent, a self-made millionaire, speaks well, and won a contested primary against Terry Adams, who's like himself a Knoxville lawyer. Both of them spoke very well, and they both are much better than some of the Democratic candidates that have emerged in other statewide races, like governor. There hasn't been a legitimate Democrat running for governor in a while. But this might be a race as well. So that matches the Kentucky race. If Lamar Alexander can only master 50% of the vote in his primary, he's vulnerable. And Gordon Ball has a certain appeal to conservatives, but he basically stands for Democratic principles, so he should get most of his party turnout. Could be a good race.
Do you think the Tea Party wing of the Republican Party would sit home rather than vote for Alexander?
I think that...
and That may be the only way.
I doubt it. I think that even those who consider Alexander too moderate, and obviously a lot of them did, they voted for Joe Carr for that reason. They would hold their nose and vote for him because they don't want any Democrats
in office.
So
yeah.
they would probably turn out.
Yeah. We have another interesting race in that Congressman
Desjardins of the 4th District. That's actually in Middle Tennessee, and that was an historically Democratic seat, as most of them were for a while, for a long while. But it turned Republican in 2010. Mr. Scott Desjardins, who's a physician, upset a longstanding Democrat. He was challenged in his primary this year because he's had a lot of problems. He forcing his wife to have, a girlfriend to have an abortion and all kinds of things. For a pro-life person, that's kind of odd. And various other kinds of complications. And the Republican who challenged him, another state representative named Jim Tracy, was a very respectable Republican. He lost. So Scott Desjardins, if he won that race, he will defeat, defeat Linda Sherrill, who is a very respectable Democrat running against him. But she at least is making a good race of it.
Okay. Do you have any spectacular predictions for us?
I'll consider it spectacular if I can get the frog out of my throat. But no, again, the most edifying thing I know about is what we started with, that there apparently is going to be a consensus, I certainly hope so, on the issue of how to deal with crime in our community.
Okay, very good. I want to thank those of you at home and Jackson Baker for joining us today on Tennessee Talks. Be sure and keep up with Jackson Baker each week in the Memphis Flyer. You can find one newspaper at your local newsstand or visit memphisflyer.com. If you have any questions about this or any other show on GHS-TV, visit our website at www.ghstv.org. You can also follow the station on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time on Tennessee Talks. So, thank you.
You're quite welcome.